Hello and welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webcast presented by Thorogood. Today we'll be presenting on innovations in the Qlik platform. And first I wanted to introduce today's presenters. My name is Corey Hulse and I've been a consultant with Thorogood for just about 10 years now. My Qlik experience involves working with consumer goods and insurance enterprise organizations on areas like application build, strategy, and the implementation of best practices. With me today is fellow consultant Scott Stieritz. Scott has worked in the consumer goods, insurance, and pharma industries, and today Scott will be highlighting some very interesting demonstrations. So today we're going to be briefly introducing Thorogood and then get to the core of the presentation. We'll cover new and important features on the Qlik platform and the transition into a conversation on enterprise considerations. So today's objectives: we will describe the major products that Qlik offers and provide some background on each and highlight recent capabilities and recent releases, specifically around this whole set of Qlik BI tools, and demonstrate some things for you today. We'll intersperse also some of our enterprise customers' success stories within the Qlik platform, and then we'll discuss some important considerations for enterprise organizations, which includes things like end-to-end data integration, preserving a business-centric focus, and methods to overcome common challenges faced by many organizations as they look to grow their Qlik implementation. So for Thorogood, I'm going to introduce Thorogood here for those of you who may not know us. We're an independent professional services firm specializing in areas like business intelligence and analytics, specifically around solutions and strategies. We were founded in 1987, and we operate globally from our offices in London, New York, Philadelphia, Singapore, Sao Paulo, and Bangalore. We recruit and train consultants to develop a unique mix of skills, and that's blending of a business understanding in the form of industry and functional expertise with strong technical aptitude and really a deep understanding of analytical tools and techniques. We feel the intersection of these three core skills results in high-quality services. Some of these services include areas like strategy, design, development, and implementation. Speaking about our clients and who we work with, they're some of the leading organizations in the consumer goods, insurance, pharmaceutical, and banking sectors. We've included a list of some of our customers within each of these sectors here to share with you the types of companies that we have helped with their business intelligence and analytics needs. And we are independent in that we don't partner with just one particular technology vendor. We know that our customers use a variety and a range of platforms and services, and so we partner with a wide array of technology firms in the business intelligence market, and that includes back-end, front-end, and analytics-driven technologies. Now, since today's webcast is focusing in on the Qlik suite specifically, let's speak about a bit our partnership with Qlik. We are a systems integrator partner and have been partners with Qlik since 2009. We've done over 170 client projects delivered to our customers, and our focus and specialty is really the end-to-end integration of Qlik with major enterprise technologies to unlock data and insights for any part of the organization. So now that I've spoken about Qlik, let's talk about innovations in the Qlik platform. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Scott. Scott?
Thanks, Corey. So as Corey mentioned, I'm going to be giving a quick overview of updates to the Qlik platform. So as we can see, the image right here is sort of a high-level view of the entirety of the Qlik offering. But now we're going to dive a little deeper into some of these individual products and services that Qlik offers. So the first one we want to talk about today is QlikView, and the most recent release of QlikView is QlikView 12. So this product is focused on guided analytics through structured reporting, and it offers extreme customizability of applications to its users. The next product is Qlik Sense, and the most recent release of this was in June of 2017. So Qlik Sense is a little less focused on structured reporting and more so on flexible self-service data discovery. Qlik Sense is also great for ad hoc data analysis and investigation. Qlik GeoAnalytics involves enhancements to the geospatial analytical capabilities of the Qlik platform through powerful map visualizations and geospatial analytics. Qlik nPrinting, which again had a release in June of 2017, is a tool for unifying visualizations that come from many different applications into single reports, and then these reports can then be scheduled for distribution throughout your business. Qlik Data Market is a platform for finding and connecting to external data sources. And Data Market's now fully integrated into the Qlik platform which means that there's a really low barrier to entry for incorporating external data into your QlikView and Qlik Sense applications. So there were a number of updates to Qlik Sense in the June 2017 release that we want to talk about today. And as a general note, Qlik's moving toward 5 releases of Qlik Sense per year, and these releases are named after the month in which they were released. For example, the most recent one was in June 2017. So the first update to Qlik Sense that we want to talk about is chart types. So there are some new chart types available in Qlik Sense, such as box plots, distribution plots, and histograms. And these can all be now easily used within your Qlik Sense applications. There's also some new options for coloring charts. So we can assign specific colors to measures or dimensions, and we can even assign colors to specific dimension values. And what this really offers us is consistency within and even across applications within your organization. And it also presents a great opportunity for incorporating your company's branding into an application. With the release, we also saw some enhancements to the data preparation interface. For example, there were some updates to the Data Manager interface, which is a UI for preparing data before it's loaded into the application. Now we can synchronize scripted tables so that tables that are generated within the load script itself can be modified alongside tables that pull directly from your data sources. There are data profiling cards which display summary statistics about selected fields, and this gives us the opportunity to replace values within fields, split a field into multiple columns, define custom sort orders, and create custom buckets with unequal sizes. And lastly, the data prep interface allows for quick concatenation of tables, ensuring that the fields are mapped correctly. So we can really drag and drop fields to make sure that they're lining up if we're trying to concatenate 2 separate tables. Next interesting update is on-demand apps for big data. So rather than struggling with extremely long data reload times when dealing with massive data volumes, we now have the ability to use selection apps showing high-level aggregated views of the data to slice and dice the data in particular ways and make selections that we want to make. And then we have a template app to call upon these selections in order to quickly populate the app with granular line-level data, fitting only those selections, essentially allowing drilling down quickly and seamlessly from summary views to line-level data without the debilitating load times. Lastly, Qlik Sense now has an advanced analytics integration integrated into Qlik Sense. So this allows for extending the load script and expression libraries with analytic functions that leverage the power of third-party engines. So for example, let's say you have some R or Python script that creates some valuable output for your business. This can now be implemented directly into your application. So now that we've seen or talked through some of the updates to Qlik Sense, we'll jump into an actual Qlik Sense application to see how these updates can enhance the user experience. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull up a Qlik Sense application that we have here. So for this demo, I'm going to be acting as an analyst in a global CPG company. And one of the main focuses of my department is on supply chain management. Now to help with that, we have this Qlik Sense app that's used to analyze my company's stock information over the past few years. What we're looking at right now is the executive dashboard. So we have a map showing bubbles sized by out of stock count and colored by percentage out of stock. We have some valuable KPIs up at the top right here. And at the bottom, there's a time-aware line chart that shows out of stock count that I can easily go right here and make a selection on a month. I can scroll into as I need to. I can look at a particular subset of the data, and I can scroll across the bottom here very, very easily. Then the next dashboard that we have is an out-of-stock analysis. So this allows me to look at my supply chain data by customer and supplier, which can show some interesting slices of the data that I didn't get to see on the executive dashboard. Next we have a brand analysis. And this shows my supply chain data from a brand perspective with some filters and KPIs across the top. And then along the bottom we have another time-aware line chart that I mentioned before, and a scatter plot of over and under stocked ratio across the bottom. So one thing I want to call out is this time-aware line chart is actually an update to Qlik Sense from a couple releases ago. So that's still a pretty new feature that's great for showing our data across time. Then the last dashboard that we already have built out in this supply chain management app is just a table of some line level data. So if I want to see the actual data that's applying to my specific brands or look at it by brand group, I can go in and view the actual values here. So this dashboard allows me to view my stock data from a variety of perspectives. But as a data analyst, I'm interested in using the flexibility of Qlik Sense to do some ad hoc analysis in order to learn a bit more about the data itself. So maybe I'll do that by delving into an important measure that we have in our application, which is out of stock percentage. So to do that, I'm going to open up this empty dashboard here. And the first thing that I'm going to do is look at maybe average out of stock percentage across my brand groups. So I'm going to go and edit this dashboard. And perhaps I want to look at that as a bar chart. So I'll just drag a bar chart on here. Now, as I mentioned, I want to add brand group name since I want to look at it by brand group. My measure is going to be that out of stock percentage. But now as I'm looking at this, I'm kind of recalling that actually a few dashboards to the left, I have this scatter plot here that is already colored by brand group. So if I look at it, I can see that my ice cream products are colored red, my book products are colored green, and my board game products are colored blue. So to ensure consistency across this application, that's something I would really want to implement in that bar chart. But if I look at exactly how this is colored here, if I go into Appearance and open up this color pane, I can see that it's colored by expression. So if I look at the expression, it's actually an if statement that's using some RGB values and conditionally assigning those values based on what the brand group is. Now if I were to apply this to other visualizations, I'd need to go and copy this into each of them, possibly adjusting based on what dimensions I have in that visualization. Now this could be a little bit clunky to work with. So what I really want to do is make use of the new coloring options with the June 2017 release of Qlik Sense to create some consistent coloring for that dimension value. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go to Master Items, and under Dimensions, I'm going to create a new master dimension for my brand group name. I'm going to add that dimension and click Done there. So if I go in and edit it here, I can select Value Colors, and here's where I can assign specific colors to those actual dimension values. So as I mentioned, board games is blue, so I'm going to go and pick a blue color here. Books is green, so I'll go up and pick a green color. And then ice cream I have assigned to red. And then all I need to do is click Save, and I have those values and the corresponding colors saved in this dimension. So if I go back to this scatter plot here, under Colors and Legend, rather than coloring by that long kind of clunky expression, I can just switch to color by dimension. The dimension I want to color by is that brand group name, and you can see that those colors are already passing through here. And in the same way, for this bar chart that I created to look at my out of stock percentage, I can customize my colors, color by dimension, assign the dimension to brand group name, and you can see that the colors pass through automatically here. So now that I have this bar chart, I have some summary information about my out of stock percentage. But now I want to dive a little bit deeper into the data. So perhaps I'll try a distribution plot, which is also new to the June 2017 release. So again, I'll go up to my charts, I'll drag across the distribution plot, and let's say I want to look at it by, again, by brand group, but I want to see the distribution of out of stock percentage by my specific brands, which means I'm going to go ahead and add my brand group name there. Another dimension that I want to add is brand name, and I'll add that out of stock percentage. And I just want to flip these here. So I can see that I have the distribution of my out of stock percentage across board games, across books, across ice cream. But since I have so many data points here, it's kind of hard to get a lot of information out of this. You know, it's hard to tell exactly what the density is in in this area, or how that compares to books. So maybe there's a better plot or a better chart that I can use to visualize this data in a more understandable way. So to do that, I'm going to drag on this box plot and just convert this chart to a box plot. And I can see that right away I can get a lot of information out of this. So I have my box here where I can see my mean values. I can see the range of my values. I have the whiskers again showing that range and showing different percentiles. But what this is really highlighting is some of these outliers here. So maybe these specific books, these brands would be some brands that I want to look into a little bit closer to see why they're so high in the out of stock percentage. And another thing that this immediately calls out is if you look at ice cream here, the whisker for this box and whisker plot is actually extending beyond 1, and I have the whiskers at the bottom extending beyond 0, which is definitely suggesting some sort of data issue that I have going on the back end. So rather than looking at this and or looking at this bar chart on the left here and assuming that these numbers are accurate, this is right away pointing out to me that I have some data issues that I want to correct to get the most accurate view of my out of stock percentage.
Yeah, so I think those are two really cool things that you showed off there, Scott, and especially in this one. Could you go back into the edit mode for a second?
Sure.
So first you had accidentally selected brand group name and had that on top of brand name, but just to point out for the audience here, it's so easy to switch up visuals and just change that back to the way that you had it originally. It wasn't what you wanted previously, but it is kind of an interesting cut of the data. So for somebody interacting with things, you're not just stuck with the interactions that are natively there, but you have the ability to change and manipulate and make it your own. And I think some things about the coloring that are particularly interesting that I'm excited about related to branding. If you have certain categories and groups, we have customers that this category is blue, this category is purple, and it's consistent in their various different reporting according to their branding guidelines. This is an opportunity to really make things consistent as you're moving across applications from a visualization and a display point of view. So two really cool things that I think have come out of this recent release.
So in that CPG application that I just worked through, we got the opportunity to see just a couple of the enhancements to the Qlik Sense offering that came with that June 2017 release. We saw the box plots and distribution plots used for some quick data analysis, and we saw the new coloring options allowed us to have more consistency and cohesiveness among the visualizations in that application, which helped to add some clarity to insights we can quickly get from that app. Then we'll also see some advancements to the enhanced data prep user interface a bit further into this presentation. So the next thing that we want to talk about is Qlik GeoAnalytics. So GeoAnalytics came to be part of the Qlik platform through Qlik's acquisition of Idevio, which was a third-party provider of geoanalytical software and services. This acquisition was at the beginning of 2017. So the geoanalytical capabilities of this software have now been fully integrated into the Qlik platform, meaning major enhancements to the geoanalytical potential of applications built in QlikView and Qlik Sense. So essentially, Qlik GeoAnalytics boils down to two things. There's advanced mapping capabilities, and there's some back-end geospatial analytical capabilities. Now, the advanced mapping capabilities include overlaying multiple map layers, adjusting which layers are showing while actually using the application, animating maps to show changes in dimensions or measures over time, or changes in another dimension, adjusting the base layer of map charts to show anything from the built-in world map to something as custom as building blueprints as your base layer, and a whole lot more. And then as far as back-end geospatial analytics capabilities, there's an easy-to-use graphical user interface for implementing a wide variety of geoanalytical use cases such as clustering, finding nearest points, combining smaller geographical areas into custom larger areas, which is dissolving, calculating the intersection of areas, defining travel routes between points or areas, and again, a whole lot more. The data is ready to be quickly incorporated into those powerful maps that I just talked about. And then the data can also be tied back to the regular business source data for incorporation into other visualizations besides just those maps. So now we'll take a look at some of these GeoAnalytic updates in action. So again, I'm going to pull up Qlik Sense here, and I'm going to switch over to this new application. So let's say for this new demo, I'm going to be an analyst within a retail chain. So we have a number of storefronts across New York City. And we have this application here that we use for some high-level information about our stores. We started a membership program that we use to get some basic information about our customers, which we're displaying on the dashboard here. Now we're looking at just a subset of slightly over 100 customers throughout the city. We have counts of customers by borough in this tree map here. We have some information about customer ages and average monthly expenditure, which I can look at by just flipping the dimension here for age and monthly expenditure. Then we also have some data about our stores, such as the number of years since the stores opened and their monthly revenues. And then as the lower map here shows, which is displaying our stores across New York City, our stores are limited to the Bronx and Brooklyn. Now we're looking to expand and are interested in where a new store may have the most potential for success. And with that, as an analyst, I've been tasked to start considering a geoanalytic approach to looking at our data. In the past, we've generally used a kind of borough-based approach, as you can see here, like we have customers split out by borough, to look at anything geographical, but we're really looking to update to something a bit more advanced. And one issue I've come across as I'm looking at this application, and probably many Qlik Sense users have encountered in the past, is difficulty with connecting these data points of customers and stores on a single map to get a better view of our stores in relation to our customers. And that's because this data exists in separate tables and as separate fields. We have some of the geographical information about our customers in one table in some fields, and for our stores in a separate table. So one approach we've used in the past is concatenating these tables so that all the data points are in the same field. So with the Qlik Sense update, we could do this pretty easily through the data manager. So as I load this data manager for a second here, let's say it's the stores and customers data that I want to concatenate. So I could go down there, concatenate tables, and then just click customers as the table that I want to concatenate onto stores. And right away we can start mapping our columns. We can line up the columns where they're appropriate. We might be creating new columns or adjust column names. But with the Qlik GeoAnalytics update, this is no longer really necessary to try to concatenate these tables and maybe force some of these relationships that don't need to be made. So I'm going to cancel out of this and go back to my application. And that's the application. So instead we're looking to jump into something a little more comprehensive rather than just overlaying two sets of data points on a map. And we can do this with the Qlik GeoAnalytics map updates. So I'm going to navigate over to this dashboard here. So right away I'm showing my customers as gray circles throughout New York City. And then if I want to, I can bring on my current stores by just clicking on my stores and setting visible to true. And right away we can see all these stores popping up as blue squares. So we can see in a single map, and definitely a more detailed map, where exactly my stores lie in relation to my customer base. Now, one of the great things about the Qlik GeoAnalytics update is clustering, which I mentioned before. So I did some clustering on my actual customer locations and figure out where the hubs of my customers are and identify some potential targets for locations of a new store. So I'm going to go ahead and make those clusters visible right now. And we can see these as these sort of translucent purple circles here, and they're sized by number of customers associated with that cluster. Finally, I can go ahead and layer in some lines onto those clusters so we can see specifically which customers are associated with which cluster. So this map is really intuitive to just scroll in, see a little bit more data about a specific cluster. So I can see here, which customers and which locations I might be pulling into this potential store location here. I can see that this cluster right here is actually suggesting we open a store in Central Park, which might be some tough real estate to get our hands on, but we could definitely layer in some additional area-based geospatial information, about property prices and availability to gain even more insights about optimal store locations. So in that demo, we got to look at how the new GeoAnalytic maps can really improve upon the native Qlik Sense mapping capabilities that we were used to before this release. We got to see multiple overlaid map layers and showing and hiding some of these layers on the fly. And we also got to see the back-end GeoAnalytic capabilities with the customer clusters being calculated within the Qlik Sense application itself and then brought directly through into the GeoAnalytic map visualization. So it's pretty clear when I'm looking at that it's really important to have a properly structured data model behind the scenes in order to get insight out of the geospatial analytics. So definitely reach out if you've been struggling in this area or if you really just want to get started with some of these GeoAnalytic updates. Now I'll hand it back over to Corey to talk about where we've seen some success of using the Qlik platform at many of our enterprise customers.
All right, thanks a lot, Scott. So first I want to start out with a customer success story, and this is a customer of ours in the Lloyd's of London insurance market. The goal of the project for them was to unleash better analysis on policy and claims information. The existing technology setup was a robust Microsoft SQL Server implementation, but end-user reporting was a series of static, somewhat repetitive reports. They'd started exploring Qlik and wanted to dive more interactively into analysis and really take things to the next level. So we at Thorogood helped this customer on a couple of fronts, and that included improvements to the interactivity and the exploration capability of their existing Qlik application, more selections, better dimensionality, and the ability to help them answer the next question that the user would want to ask. We also provided architectural guidance because it wasn't just Qlik at that organization, it was Qlik and Microsoft. How do you embrace a more cohesive end-to-end system that lets all of those technologies play together while still unlocking the possibilities from a Qlik perspective? Improvements to those existing Microsoft reports to ensure consistency in the numbers being reported to users because it's very important from an enterprise point of view. And really just the bridge between the UK and the US offices to bring multiple applications together on the same server platform. So we've done a lot of work in the insurance space, not just within Qlik. Let us know if any of this is interesting to you, and we're happy to continue to chat with you about it. Now I'm going to dive into a quick demonstration of an anonymized application related to insurance and QlikView 12. Let's bring up this one. There we go. So this is QlikView that we're taking a look at, and we're on a bigger monitor here, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom a bit into the app so we can hopefully all see it better. The basic gist behind this application is that we're looking at underwriting claims summary information, so a combination of a couple of different sources coming from our insurance organization. I'm going to hit clear and start over, and we'll see a couple interesting things. How's our premium developing? How are our losses developing over time, in addition to the individual brokers for who's selling these policies to begin with, and what are our partnerships with them? And the things that you love about Qlik in terms of the ability to click on something and see the interactivity. So I can see the white squares are ones where, oh, you picked US specialty. Okay, you have casualty or marine and motor, and I can make further selections, or I can unselect others and see the... So it retains information, remembers information, which I think is very robust, and one of the things I really love about the whole Qlik platform. I'll jump over to claims very quickly. So this has to do with underwriting. We can see how things are building up over time. So the ability to do some pretty cool, interesting visuals that go on top of the actual grid data that might exist within. And I want to make this slide bigger. I've made some selections elsewhere. So some custom functionality that we've built into this application to make things more intuitive, more interactive. And this one specifically was of particular interest to the customer because they'll have claims for larger policies that might be associated with a particular category or a particular type of catastrophe that comes in from a claims perspective. And what they're looking for from a business perspective is to identify where have claims been made that have not been resolved yet, what haven't we paid out yet. So the idea behind this is that, okay, we have a lot of incurred losses by particular categories. I want to filter on something that's relevant to me. So I want to work on the past couple of years and things that are outstanding. Ooh, fires. That's interesting in terms of an incurred loss. I'm going to click on fire, but then I have the ability to pivot and move somewhere else. So here I can spin that. What are the particular catastrophes that are related to where we have a lot of claims and perhaps outstanding claims? The California fire incidents that happened back in 2012. Now I can click on that. Great, I filtered to a particular intersection. I can see how that build has gone out, how many months since the catastrophe has happened that we've had claims associated with it. Now I can break it down to the individual catastrophe. I can see that at 18% still outstanding. All right, well, maybe I don't want to have that selection anymore. How does that compare to other things? Oh, a couple interesting things that I'm seeing. I have a lot of losses outstanding for this particular incident, but I have a high ratio of losses that are outstanding on a smaller incident. So what this allows me to do is drill in, focus, pivot, spin it a different way, get to the cuts of data that are really interesting to me. Now I can do a data export. Now this can highlight to me, hey, where do you have your losses outstanding? I can interact with the sheet and say, okay, oh good. So my highest losses are up here. Oh, these are the ones I really want to be focusing on. Now I've got something actionable. I can go and take action with the data that I have here to go to these particular brokers to say, hey guys, what's going on? Why do I have all of these losses outstanding? Why haven't claims like this been resolved yet? So in a couple of clicks and a couple of pivots, we're able to get to a very interesting data intersection that now I can take action on. This is the type of thing that we did with our customer in the Lloyd's of London market. Instead of static Excel reports or static grid reporting that would just give some information, give people interactivity and the ability to really dive into the things that are most relevant for their business and what they're looking at. So we're going to end today with some discussion on enterprise considerations, and we'll talk about a few more customer success stories, but really just what it takes for larger enterprise organizations and what we see in the marketplace that helps the intersection with Qlik make it a great platform. So quite often we see customers see value in individual applications, but those customers will have questions about the right way to take it to the next level and support enterprise-wide functionality. How do we optimize architecture, deliver on security? How do you find that balance between freedom and governance? This is something that our customers are thinking about. And what about cloud? Where does cloud come in? So what you really have to have is a focus on the end business deliverable. So really I think it starts out by understanding what the goals of the application and what success looks like. What problems are they facing and how can you feed it into Qlik into getting data there? So usually this starts with a proof of concept. You're taking a local extract, showing the possibilities through tools like QlikView and Qlik Sense, and making sure that areas like measures, charts, and visuals really strike at the heart of what they're facing. Are you addressing the business challenges? Can they identify their top customers? Are problem areas highlighted in a way that makes them get more information and enables them to take action? But really it's about getting through a set of iterations. Once you get through those iterations, then it focuses on streamlining that process, automating data refreshes, connecting to enterprise sources, licensing, etc., but all really with the goal of getting information into the hands of key decision makers. And then eventually switching it up. Instead of an Excel extract, maybe it's a data warehouse that you're connecting it to. But still the visuals that people have come to know and love and appreciate and are getting good value out of, it's all tied in. And really you need a strategy behind how you approach that. So one of the greatest challenges that we see for enterprise customers is the striking of the balance of governance and business flexibility. The Qlik set of products, I feel, are ultimately a very flexible tool in order to unlock data on a very large scale. So things like managing your ETL. How are you dealing with master data from your enterprise sources and the reconciliation across multiple different applications? How do you ensure consistent delivery across disparate sources, and when can you let people deviate from that in terms of the things that they need? And what's your strategy for server optimization? As you're growing, your users, the server usage, how are you load balancing between those servers? The middle part is modeling for success. So shared data pools to get the right data to the right places. Can you reuse some of the master data sources? Can you use metadata about your applications to better serve new applications that are going to come up in the future? And then how will the business community want to influence the data that sits outside the enterprise? Quite often we see that, okay, hey, we've got data from your enterprise warehouse. Ooh, but I have this Excel sheet, or I have this outside source, or now more emergingly, I have this cloud-based source that I want to merge in. How do you make that all work at the end of the day to really deliver value in the intersection of data sources that are quite often very disparate? But really eye on the end product, and we've talked about this a bit already. ensure business value driven applications. And what are the right measures that you're delivering? How do you ensure performance by balancing things like ETL versus runtime calculations? All very interesting topics that we could spend a lot of time on, but reach out to us because we think a lot of these are very interesting to discuss. We'll go into a couple of things here related to areas like security and enterprise growth. So security, people often have questions about it. How do we get secure data and get it into the hands of the people who need it while keeping others out? One of the interesting technical things about QlikView is that you're taking an extract of data. How do you then protect data that needs to be protected? Most basic is application level security. So at the start, you can open up applications to anyone who has a Qlik license. However, you can start to customize this access on an application by application basis so that individuals access the applications that are truly meant for them. Typically, we see finance or HR applications locked down because only the relevant users are supposed to be able to see them. If you let someone have access to an application, they have the ability to see everything within that app. Now, if you want row-level security, Qlik also has you covered. We can create a single application that has an entire pool of data available, but set up what's known as section access. It allows you to apply a security filter so that when a user enters who's only supposed to see a single region or a single product set, they see just that information. Less maintenance, less to worry about. But enterprise customers need to think about their approach. Will they store security settings? Will they store it locally through a database, through Excel files? How do you take advantage of things like Active Directory groups? And we've helped customers adopt and grow the approaches that make sense for them. I think another a concept that we'll touch on briefly is the idea of globalization. So to highlight this, on the left, we have a central solution where everything's baked into a single application to be used by everyone, regardless of geography or business focus, a single application that everyone accesses. Perhaps you can layer in some of those security considerations, row-level access that we discovered earlier, but a rigid solution presented to all. Everyone's getting that version. And it might be effective, it might not be. On the right, and where we see companies looking to adapt to, are the idea of multiple solutions based on a central version or a central template. So you might have a centralized version, but you spin off applications that are inherently different so that the UK can make specific adjustments to data in the front end to serve their needs, which might be different than the data and front end and data load processes that the US needs. How do you find that balance? Well, there really is no one-size-fits-all for any customer or application, but the goal is to set up the structures in the way that you're going to deliver the best balance between flexibility and business value. Factors that usually determine what route you end up going involve: do you have consistency in your business processes, agreement on alignment, what about security considerations? So these are all things to think about when it comes to the globalization of any solution. So the next thing that we're going to highlight is a a pharma case study here. So to go back, another customer success story, and this one's for a pharmaceutical giant with locations based all around the world. As a customer, we've worked with them for well over 25 years, and recently they've started to embrace the Qlik platform. We've conducted over 35 different projects with them focused on Qlik, and QlikView, Qlik Sense, nPrinting to deliver applications to a variety of areas. Warehouse and distribution, analytics on their own information management use, things like supply chain, accountability, and audit reporting. So this is just a sample of some of the engagements that we've had with this customer. But overall, we're providing architectural guidance and tactical project implementation. So if you're a pharma customer of ours or a pharma interested in the pharma industry, reach out to us and we're happy to discuss further. I'm going to switch to a very brief demo now that we have when we talk about what are we helping with this customer and the metadata analysis of information that exists within the organization. So this one's a very basic reconciliation app where we're using metadata about the data load process. So not a lot of fancy graphs or charts or interactivity here, but we're still using Qlik to help us organize Qlik in a way. Data sources and where they're coming from, and things about the data processing. So metadata we can capture during the data load log process that gets output, and we take that information and put it into kind of a monitoring application. Hey, differences in what we expect in the before and after. Here's a problem. You might want to take a look at this. So we've designed factors that help people flag where there might be issues or where there might be problems. So one of the things here is that field mapping as an example. So here I've got a problem with certain areas and I want to see, okay, well what's going on with my unknowns? Okay, well here, unknown, alright, I've got a problem with stores. What about item SKUs? Oh, these items in particular I'm having an issue with, and that comes in from the sell-in source. So here in a couple of clicks I can help manage the metadata process, still let data through to the end user, but I'm able to get more and better insight here. Here, I've got an interactive chart, and I can see from account perspective, where am I having duplicate records as well. So the sorts of things that get caught in an ETL process that maybe somebody's looking at log files, someone's not, you can use Qlik to help monitor, to refine the data that comes in that makes it better at the end of the day. So very brief demo, very metadata driven, but we think it's stuff like that that really helps enterprise customers with the next phase. We took a look at that data validation. So at the latest Qonnections event, Qlik has really emphasized their cloud-based strategy. Qlik announced that they've hit over 100,000 customers on their Qlik Cloud platform. And according to a 2016 BARC survey, 2017 really is going to be a tipping point for customers where more than 50% are either going to move to the cloud or will have thought about moving to the cloud. And Qlik is continuing to expand their cloud offerings, which include per-seat licensing, which is great for trials and avoids the needs for local installs. It comes in a few different flavors depending on scale, but it's just Qlik Sense, however. So if you have a tight integration with QlikView, you might want to consider some other options if you're thinking about cloud. Another possibility we have helped customers with is the installation of Qlik servers to cloud-based servers like AWS. You own the server license and your infrastructure sits in the cloud as opposed to a local data center. What's right for your organization? Well, it certainly depends on a number of factors, including growth, data locations, infrastructure platforms, and what you have in place already from a licensing perspective. So come speak to us about your particular situation. We're happy to talk with you more. I saw a question come in earlier about some licensing. So I think licensing really could be the topic of its own webcast, really. The answer for individual organization is going to be nuanced. With QlikView, you have things to consider like local desktop licenses for developers, but then when you're on the server, document, user, session counts. On the Qlik Sense side, they include a free desktop tool with a token component to server. Now add in nPrinting and data market and now GeoAnalytics into the mix. So when do you use what? How do you optimize? We've helped customers figure out optimal strategies for them that balances cost with application delivery and access. So if something like this is of interest, please reach out to us. Qlik themselves are very public about the costs of these server licenses, and so that's the type of thing that you should be able to find online through the Qlik website. But for your organization specifically, what's the right mix? How do we grow within the organization? We'll help guide you through the possibilities. Last topic I wanted to mention for today before we get to the Q&A is to talk about data integration. So Qlik has the ability to connect to a world of different sources. Quite often enterprise customers need to connect to traditional warehouses, flat file sources like Excel, but we're seeing the emergence in the space for areas like cloud, social, and even what's traditionally called big data, platforms like Hadoop as an example. So most important for our enterprise customers is the ability to connect to those warehouses, SQL Server, SAP, Oracle, Teradata, but then add on the flexibility of local sources like Excel. Then there are other sources out there that can be integrated through native ODBC drivers, web connectors, or REST APIs. So I've put up very briefly on the screen here, and we'll distribute this presentation afterwards. Here's the list of all sorts of cool and fun, interesting things that you can connect Qlik to. A lot of traditional platforms, cloud-based platforms, but I really think the most interesting potential is the delivery of Qlik through other channels. You of course have native server delivery, access through a web browser, but what if you could integrate more? What if you could integrate Qlik into websites? What about SharePoint, data catalogs, or even something like Salesforce? So we've hosted a series of recent webcasts that cover the integration topic of Qlik and beyond. Any of those are of interest, certainly get in touch with us. So finally, wanted to close out before we get to the Q&A by briefly speaking about our final customer success story. Now this is a multinational consumer goods organization who has multiple different verticals in different types of food products. The customer has been working with Thorogood for over 30 years across many different technologies, and we started engaging with them in 2008 on a series of QlikView focused deliverables. During that time, we've worked across these verticals to enhance data analysis across areas like sales, demand planning, promotions, manufacturing, and HR. So if topics like this are of interest to you, please reach out to us. So we know that this has been a whirlwind tour and discussion of all things possible with the Qlik platform. We hope that you saw some of the possibilities with the latest features and releases and saw the potential for what Qlik really means to our customers and where the potential is for large enterprise organizations. If you have any more information about today's topic or how Thorogood can help you, I've put up on the screen here the list of services and engagements that we provide our customers up on the screen. If any of these topics are of interest, absolutely reach out to us. If you have any further questions, I'll put up Scott and I's email address up here, but feel free to drop more questions in the chat panel and we'll conduct some follow-up in the days ahead. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Scott for his presentation today and thank all of you for joining. Have a great day.